And everybody in here is better at getting clear on certain things. That's why you do what you do in your life.
Every single weakness has a strength as long as you can sit there, admit it's a weakness, and then do something proactively about it.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, HyperConscious Mastermind, week 24. We are going to talk about how to transform your weaknesses into strengths. And I will bring the energy, because I always do.
Got to.
So, do you want me to start?
Please.
You want me to start? Okay. Number one weakness, low confidence. So many people deal with this. I don't know the percentage, and this is something we have talked extensively about in our episodes, in our masterminds, when we're on other shows. But most people who lack confidence are afraid to take action. So you always are stuck in this perpetual cycle of, I'm afraid. Okay? So if you are able to consistently fear chase, I have told the story of Amy and me at the mall. Tiffany has done some incredible fear chasing. Mia has done fear chasing with her podcast. Every single person in here at some point or another has done some form of fear chasing. If you're doing fear chasing, you will become more confident because you're getting proof that it's not going to kill you. We've talked about that before. For me, I was sitting in a hotel room and my buddy at the time texted me and he said, "Hey man, I have a ticket to England. Right now, tickets are half priced. This is something you should do." And in my mind, it was like, absolutely not. My number one biggest fear is planes. My number two biggest fear is sharks. And we're going to be flying a plane over the ocean. That's going to be a pass from me. But I asked, like, what would the best version of Kevin do? And I ended up going to England for a week. That was the first time I'd been on a plane in like 15 years. And that legitimately changed my life because I was able to experience so many things that I wouldn't be able to normally experience. So for me, I also leaned on somebody else. And this is one of the reasons Alan and I work so well together. When I didn't have any confidence, Alan had a ton of it. So I was able to lean on him. You're going to see a running theme here throughout this entire presentation. If you can find somebody who is the polar opposite of you, you are way more likely to succeed. Like, way more, as long as you can stick in the room long enough, because it's our natural tendency to run away from that. Okay, I hated Alan a little bit, and he probably didn't want to work with me because I was somewhat soft, believe it or not. So if you are able to do this and consistently fear chase and get out of your comfort zone and spend time around people who are confident, you will get results you never would have gotten before because you're taking action you would never take before. You're going to consistently get proof that you're actually not nearly as unconfident as you think you are. And also, if you do decide to do this, if you decide to be in the public eye, a speaker, a coach, a podcaster, whatever, you're going to be very relatable. Because everybody has had that moment in their life when they were afraid to do something. For most people, it's speaking. I always, on my posts, if you've ever seen it, I am terrified of speaking. Genuinely. When I get on stage, I am terrified. But I love doing it now because I've proved to myself enough times that I'm capable of doing it. And I want people to understand just because I'm afraid doesn't mean I don't do it. So it's all in the action for me.
One thing that I'll add too here is, Kevin, I don't know if I've shared this with you. I think I have.
I don't know.
But when I found out that Kevin took his podcasting equipment to England, that's when I knew how dedicated he was, and that's one of the main reasons why I wanted to work with him, is because that to me showed ultimate commitment. The fact that you're willing to go to England when you're scared of planes, you're scared of sharks. He's told me that story. And he brought his podcast equipment.
I had a separate suitcase.
Right.
I had to check a bag for my... And honestly, it's interesting because we've had to do that. I don't want to say we've had to. We've got to do that several times since. When we went to Florida, we've been to Toronto, we've been to Arizona, we've been to California. Every single time, we literally checked a bag that had 3 or 4 microphones. It had our camera. It had the mixer. It had all the wires, like all the stuff. So that was actually a precursor to that.
So his weakness was low confidence. He fear chased, went to England, brought his podcast equipment, and podcasted in England. And then I remember seeing that going, he's all in. I want to be around people who are all in. And if he didn't do that and have the courage to do that, even though he wasn't confident, I might not have worked with him, and so much would be different. And so that's just the main takeaway here. So number 2 is actually...
This is the Kevin show.
Another Kevin.
The Kevin show. So I think this is a giant weakness for people, not always like currently. This might not be a weakness of yours right now, but it has been, and it will be again in the future. Lack of clarity. Lack of clarity around all sorts of things. what you want to look like, how much money do you want to have, why you're doing what you're doing, should you be in the relationship you're in, what do you want out of a relationship, right? So many people struggle with lack of clarity because they don't sit down and contemplate. We have our cell phones on us. We're listening to music on the ride home or watching Netflix in the background when we fall asleep. We have to take some time to sit down and get clear. Like literally schedule nothing but sitting down and jotting some things down on a piece of paper. Okay? So for me, this was my podcast agency. Like we're, 2.5, 3 years into this podcast, and I'm thinking like, okay, what are my streams of income going to be? Speaking, okay, we get paid to speak, awesome. I'm doing mindset coaching, that's good, but I don't know that that's my jam. And then I got several people brought the idea to me that I could do high-level podcast coaching.
From zero to podcast.
Because not many people have 450 episodes. Not many people have started a podcast from the ground up and built it into a business, right? So for me, that clarity actually came from other people. I had no idea I was going to do this. Terrence McMahon was one. Catherine Minnie But Mighty Nash was the other one. She supported me in that idea. So they were able to give me the clarity that I didn't have myself. Again, another running theme that you're going to see throughout this, and Alan says this often, it's going to be the people you surround yourself with. It's going to be the people that I have several people in here who have been clients or currently are clients. I help them get clear on their podcast because I've been through that many times, right? Alan helps you get clear on your business. And everybody in here is better at getting clear on certain things. That's why you do what you do in your life. So if you can get clear on what you actually want, you'll have tangible action steps. So you'll know exactly what actions to take to get the results you want. You'll have so many things. You'll be more empowered. You'll be able to contribute at a higher level. You'll feel like you actually know how to track your progress because it's based on something clear. And that's always one of the first things we talk about is clarity, because without clarity, you'll never know if you're succeeding or not, right? So I would literally sit down and do not schedule anything for 20 minutes and think of what you want out of life. And if you do that consistently, you'll make the space for those thoughts to come.
And let that change. It's the who, what, when, where, why. Who do I want to surround myself with? What do I want out of life? When do I want it? Where do I want to live? Where do I want to be digitally and geographically? And then why do I want all those things? Those are the clarity questions. Who, what, when, where, why. We were taught those in grade school, but for some reason we don't apply them to our own life. The other thing I want to say here, lack of clarity as a weakness, right? Kevin contemplated, asked intelligent people, learned, had conversations. I remember those specific conversations with T-Mac and with Catherine that literally the podcast agency was born. And I can literally circle back to that one conversation when this wasn't a thing, when Kevin was like, I don't know if I can do that. I don't know if that's possible. Is that possible? Like we were contemplating, right? Yeah. I've noticed this with people. Some people want to believe they have a lot of clarity, so then they never actually seek clarity. I have one person who was close to me in my past who I'll leave anonymous, but she, in my opinion, never admitted to herself that she was lost. The moment you admit you're lost is the moment you start putting yourself in a position to get clarity. If you think you're on great track and you want to keep pretending and telling yourself a story of, yeah, I know where I'm headed, I know what I'm doing, I'm achieving my goals, like, yeah, I'm great. If you want to keep telling yourself that story, rather than go, you know what, I am so freaking lost right now. I don't know what I want anymore. I don't know who I am anymore. I remember, when Kevin finally felt so much self-belief through massive proof, I remember him and I sat down. He's like, dude, he was nearly in tears. I think he was, actually. Like, dude, I'm struggling with my identity. Like, I don't know who I am anymore. I believe in myself, and it's weird. I'm not relating to people as much as I used to. So he admitted, and we do this constantly, like, even today, getting to the studio. Every Monday when we first get here, like, we had a long weekend, and we have things that we're no longer clear on because the snow globe got shaken over the weekend, and we're trying to learn. So admit that you're lost, and you'll actually, it's paradoxical, but you'll actually get found much quicker. Because imagine someone who admits they're lost and gets a coach, and it changes their life, versus someone who pretends they're found their whole life, never gets a coach. Next one.
This is on Jeff.
This is on me?
Yeah.
Okay, so this one, the weakness is arrogance, which I would define arrogance as as very, very high confidence with very low awareness. So earlier today, Kevin and I had the privilege of listening to episode 1
Yeah, that'll be out Friday.
live.
Yeah.
So we actually listened to it live while recording an episode. And then we reflected from our new sense of awareness on the way we were 3 years ago, which was quite a trip. And we both realized that we both were kind of personifying high confidence, but with low awareness based on what we know now. So I've told this story before, but when I first started doing fitness shows, I thought that I would. It's interesting because I did three shows. The very first show, I thought that I would win, aka Arrogance, even without a coach. Okay, I ended up getting 5th place out of 6 people, and the only person that I beat was a 45-year-old who was just doing it for fun. Okay, the second show, I genuinely was afraid to lose, but guess what? I got a posing coach. I checked in with my other coach consistently, and I ended up winning that one. Then, circle back, 3rd show, decided not to check in with my coach, didn't get a posing coach, kind of took it lackadaisically, came in 4th out of I think 7 or something like that.
I don't remember.
But what's interesting to me is that I ended up winning the show that I thought I'd lose, and I realized this as to why. I prepared more. And so if you have arrogance and you're willing to challenge yourself, this is the key, okay? Action is the cure-all, and you'll notice that theme throughout this training. So if you are arrogant, here's what you do. You go way outside your current capabilities, and then you get humbled. Most people don't want that because they would rather pretend they're good than actually go compete. So I did a triathlon with Emily and Tom. It was my very first time. That was a very humbling experience, right? I thought it would be easy. It was really challenging, and it kept me humble. So for me, the way I get rid of my arrogance or my tendency to have an inflated view of self is to consistently get outside my comfort zone and to consistently go above and beyond what I'm currently capable of. Kevin and I talk about this. Like, we do these masterminds, right? And that means that we have every 4th week, we have a featured guest, but that means that 3 weeks out of every month, Kevin and I have to do basically like a brand new keynote. Yeah. And so that's 36 brand new keynotes per year, basically. And that's like a heavy, heavy thing because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And so it keeps us humble, though, but it also keeps us growing.
This is the other thing, too, just to add. If you are on the arrogant side, start looking at your losses. If you lack confidence, start looking at your wins. Most people who are, like, low on the drive to 5 do not look at their wins enough. Like, if I asked you, what are your wins? A lot of times they'll be like, oh, I don't know. I haven't really thought of that.
Right.
Somebody who's arrogant doesn't look at their losses. So I would say, like, literally stack your losses. You and I, we've talked about that before. Right? And then, like, kind of bringing a little bit of pain. Not too much pain, but that'll definitely do it for you.
Super important.
Okay.
So the weakness is arrogance. Again, just to reiterate, if you can challenge yourself and get around exceptional people, the quick story that I wanted to tell on this one was, I remember I was really good at basketball in Uxbridge, Massachusetts. Okay, I played pickup basketball, and I was very good. But being good in Uxbridge, Mass is very different than being in Venice Beach when someone who played D1 at UConn was in sandals, was 5'7", and dunked on me. Okay, that's called a wake-up call, right? Crushed me without even having to try. There are levels to every game, and if you want to level up, you're going to have humility. And try to be proactive about humility rather than having to get dunked on.
Yeah. Well, in sandals. I have my sandals. I actually took them off. So number 1, 2, 3, 4, comfort seeking. So many, again, a lot of the ones I'm going to do are like older versions of Kevin, so the fearful side of Kevin, but so many people are seeking comfort almost at all times, even without knowing it. Okay, if your natural reaction is to pick up your phone, that is a comfort behavior. This is a great test. I love doing this. When I'm out to eat with somebody, specifically Taryn, because that's kind of the only person I go out to eat with. When she gets up and goes to the bathroom, I literally make a conscious effort not to grab my phone. That is comfort behavior. The reason you want to do that is because you don't want to look either lonely, or you don't want people to be looking at you, or you don't want to be judged, so you bury your face in your phone. So many people, do you ever do that?
Steven Glansberg over there by himself.
Right. So
yeah, I do.
For me, and this is going to be the advice I would give to you, number 1, consistently expanding that boundary of comfort. You don't have to hop on a plane if you're terrified of planes, but you should do one thing that scares you. One thing I say during my speeches is, if you did one thing every week that scared you, your life would look completely different at the end of the year, because you'd realize that the things that scare you are not final. So that's number 1. Number 2, keep showing up. So Alan and I went to a Brendan Burchard event a couple years ago. in Arizona. Before that, we went to one of our mentors' houses in Florida. Now, a week before we went, I had the first panic attack I'd ever had my entire life. Had no idea what this was. Like, thought it was allergies. Thought I was dying. Brutal. We get to Florida. We go straight from the airport to T-Mac's house to the gym. I have another panic attack that night. No idea what's going on. I called my mom, and I'm like, hey, I don't know what's going on. I think I'm having an asthma attack. Brutal. It was the worst thing ever. Like
1 a.m, I went to Walmart to get you the...
in a sketchy part of town.
Oh, yeah, that was sketchy,
right?
yeah.
But so for me, I think I put myself so far out of my comfort zone that I actually got anxiety. I never had anxiety at this level before. It literally got so bad where when I got home from Arizona, I couldn't put my head under the covers because I would like literally almost have a panic attack. I couldn't box because I couldn't breathe. I couldn't walk on the treadmill, right? What did I do? I consistently pushed that boundary a little more. Now I'm doing 12 hard rounds on the punching bag whenever I want. Now, I worked my way up to that. Now, when I put my head under the covers, I don't freak out, right? But it's like anything else. It's like anything else. It's not going to happen overnight. It's something that you have to consistently do, but you have to commit. And most people want a goal. They commit to the goal, but they don't commit to the process, okay? If you seek comfort, you will find comfort. If you seek challenge, you will find challenge. So I would challenge that you seek challenge.
I was on a coaching call. That was fire, man. That really takes
you know,
me back, man. That was a trip.
That was brutal. That was one of the worst weeks of my life, but also the best weeks of my life.
I was so proud of you for that. Just because anyone else would have called it. And
I did think I was dying. I literally was lying on the floor in the bathroom, like, well, it's been good. It's been a good run.
I couldn't believe the resilience. We went to Arizona after that to a 4-day full immersion event, and we met Mia that time.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. So I was on a coaching call this past week with someone from England, and you might have met him, actually. It's Tim. I remember saying to Tim, okay, I want you to think of 10 people right now who you know personally. You don't have to tell me their last names. Just give me first names, okay? And include me on this list. And you can be honest. Just be honest, okay? I'm going to ask you some questions. I wrote on the whiteboard, comfort on the left, and I wrote challenge on the right. I said, this is kind of interesting, and this is what I've found. This is just my observation. People are either seeking comfort or seeking challenge. Now, if you are a challenge seeker, that doesn't mean you don't ever do anything comfortable. It just means it's not your main focus, okay? Just like if you're a comfort seeker, that doesn't mean you're never challenged. But here's what I did. I said, I want you to name 10 people in your personal life, and I want you to tell me whether they're comfort seekers or challenge seekers. And it was like, boom, boom, boom. I said, who's your hero? Okay, it was a professional cyclist. I forget his name. And I said, what does he seek, comfort or challenge? He said, oh, definitely challenge. And it's like, okay, I want you all to think in your own personal life. And this is not to be mean to anybody, but this is self-awareness, okay? Do you seek comfort more or do you seek challenge more? And you know the answer, okay? And I'm not saying not to be comfortable ever. I'm saying be comfortable in an effort to grow and contribute at your greatest level if you want to be fulfilled. And I do think that one of the biggest shifts that Kevin made originally when we teamed up is he started seeking challenge more than comfort.
Yeah, I think that for me, I just say do it anyway. Again, and I've said this a million times, you guys have heard this. It took me 150 podcast episodes to feel comfortable doing this. Literally 150 episodes before I actually felt capable of like, this isn't going to go off the rails. Like this is our 23rd, 24th week, right? Like it's just, for me, it's always been the reps. There's a reason I'm good at the gym. I wasn't good at the gym at first. I was actually very scared of it. I was the small kid. And then I ended up going to the gym and I got bigger and stronger. But at one time, that was way out of my comfort zone. The things that you're comfortable with are the things that you're competent at. It's the stuff that you do every day, right? Like you guys are way more like comfortable and confident and capable of certain things than I am. If you're a parent, you're way better at taking care of children than I am. I would be freaking out. Right? If you work at heights, you're probably way more comfortable at heights than I am. But you're only looking at the stuff that you're not comfortable with. So just remember that. You can be comfortable with anything, really.
Absolute fire. Next one is being an obliger. Oh, that's me. Is that on me?
That's on you. Yeah, well, there's an A next to it. You see that big A?
I do.
That's
I do.
Jeff.
This one's me. Okay, so if you are an obliger, so if you've ever read the book by
Gretchen Rubin.
4 Tendencies.
It's
It's called The 4 Tendencies. I believe there's an upholder a rebel, a questioner, and an obliger.
Strong word.
So an obliger, the definition, my version of it, is basically you feel obligated to fulfill the needs of others. So you're good at upholding the demands of other people.
80%, I believe she says 80% of people are obligers. If you're emotionally driven, you're probably an obliger.
And there's nothing wrong with that, but we want to be aware of it. And the reason why is probably you're love and connection driven. You want love and connection, therefore, of course, that's going to create a relationship because relationships are built on mutual value. So adding value to others is how relationships are created, period. And so if you're an obliger, it means you like love. Here's the problem. What if you're in rooms with people who have different goals, different behaviors, different values, and different beliefs? Are you going to go outside of integrity with yourself to get love? Okay, so if that's a weakness, and your weakness is being an obliger, that's okay, because you can transform it into a strength. By doing this, set your own goals. And then the story I wanted to tell about this is basically our team. So we have a master dashboard now where Amy, Tiff, Natalie, Kevin, and myself all can see each other's peak performance tracking. Okay, so we all have our daily dozen, the 12 things that we've promised ourselves to do every single day to get towards our goals. And I noticed this in myself as well, so I'll call myself out here. I was more likely to execute against my own system when I knew everyone else was looking. There's something about being on a team that will drive you. You've all probably been on a sports team of some kind, okay? Imagine a group of people that you value and care about all working toward a common goal. Is there anything better?
It's ice cream.
Other than ice cream. And that's the thing. If you're an obliger, get absolute clarity on your goals, get around people who have similar goals, and then basically create systems that keep you accountable as a team. And the strength here is you're going to be punctual, first of all, because you want to show up for other people. So I have certain people that I will keep anonymous, but they always show up to the gym when I show up because they don't want to let me down. But yet they don't always show up for themselves. That's okay. Know yourself. Understand yourself. Okay, if you're out there listening right now and you are emotionally driven, it's okay. That's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Know yourself, get on a team that's headed to the stars, and then you'll naturally gravitate toward the stars.
Headed towards the stars?
Yeah.
Take me to the stars, Jack. All right.
Put your hands on me, Jack.
Okay, that's enough. Draw me like one of your French girls, Jack. All right, number, what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, carry the 1, 6.
We probably should have numbered them, huh?
Yeah, we definitely did. Fixed mindset. So this actually came up in a group chat yesterday or the other day. Somebody asked what a good book for mindset was, and somebody had a great suggestion of Mindset by Carol Dweck. So I think for me, I used to have like I don't want to say worst fixed mindset, but I assumed what was forever. Like I didn't know that your brain was malleable and you could learn more. I didn't know that I just didn't know that. For some reason, I just decided I wasn't going to read any books because I was against that. So if you can get around people who have a growth mindset, look, if you're in this group and you come to me and say, I can't do that, I will not allow it. There is no can't. Like, there is a way. You can find a way. Again, we went back and listened to episode 1 today. It was brutal.
I heard you say can't in it. And I remember thinking to myself.
You jeffed it. You didn't say it. You didn't call me out.
I know. We were live on the episode. But I remember for a long time, Kevin and I wouldn't allow each other to use the word can't. We would change it to don't want to. And then we had a time with the ums and all that stuff. We had a lot of phases. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're good. You're good. Literally, in that episode number 1, I said, Alan, I want to make this my job. I want to do this full time. Now, this is a weird thing, but in order for that to actually happen, I have to believe it can happen, which means I have to have a growth mindset. If I have a fixed mindset and I think what is forever, I will always get what is. It's this weird thing. And we did an episode recently on you'll always get what you tolerate. If you tolerate what you have, you'll never get more. And by definition, if you have a fixed mindset, you think what is forever. My goodness, we're going around in circles here. So, my example of this.
Oh, yeah?
Bianca is in here. So, Bianca and I one day watched I Am Not Your Guru by Tony Robbins. And when I first met Bianca, she wasn't the podcaster, the coach, saw girl. She wasn't the young lady that she is today. She very much had a fixed mindset. She very much thought what was. She didn't necessarily have a strong belief in her future, right? And now she is crushing it. She's doing so many things. She's coaching. She has a podcast. She's learning every single day. If you follow her, you will see that she's consistently either at the gym learning or bettering herself. So a lot of that is because she's spent time around amazing people like Alan.
Oh, thank you.
And me.
Thank you.
And Emilia, right? She's spending time around people who are very strong growth mindsets. There's a reason. Like, if you're hanging around with people who don't believe in themselves, you're probably not going to believe in yourself. You are the sum average. I believe the quote by somebody is, you are the sum average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Jim Rohn?
Love it.
The last thing I'll add about that is I'll never forget, and I talked to you about this on our coaching call this week, B. We were leaving the gym, and she stopped, and she said, I want to be a better speaker. I want to speak on stages one day, and I need help. Please help me become a better speaker. And from that moment until now, I've had that in the back of my mind of like, what can I help B with for speaking? And on our last coaching call at the end, she said, can you give me feedback on the last episode of the Why Power podcast? If you ask for feedback from people who are better than you, and I'm not saying I'm a better speaker than Bianca, but I do have more reps temporarily as of now. I don't know if it'll always be the case, but right now it is. She had the courage to ask me for help, and now it's become a conscious effort on my part. How many people out there could ask me for help speaking? She's the one who did. And so she's going to get all those insights. And I don't know how many times I remember she came to me and asked me for help with finances. Same deal. So again, the weakness here is having a fixed mindset, getting around growth-minded people, and then asking for help. And now she's going to soar way farther than she ever would have, not because of me, not because of Kevin, not because of Emilia, but because she had the courage to ask someone who she believes has a growth mindset for help. And that's humility in action. It's absolutely fire.
And that holds true for every single one of these. Our coach, David Meltzer, says that. Ask and attract. Ask. You can't out-ask the universe, right? Like, he is super big on asking. And ever since we've started working with him and we've been asking people for things have changed dramatically. And I think a lot of it, especially if you're an obliger, especially if you have low confidence, you're afraid to ask because you don't want to inconvenience somebody. Or you don't feel like you're valuable enough to get what you're asking for. Start asking. Just ask people who you trust, ask people who you value, and ask people who genuinely want and have your best interests in hand.
We asked Evan Carmichael two days ago? How long ago was that?
That was like last week.
Last week?
Straight
Okay.
up. Like
the days are all blurring together.
I think that was Monday.
Okay, last Monday.
Yeah.
So 7 days ago, Kevin sent a fire video to Evan Carmichael asking for coaching. And now we're doing bi-weekly coaching with Evan Carmichael because our YouTube channel is just not very good.
No, it's
I
not.
think the
It's
content
not
on
great.
there is good, but we're not good at growing it. Guess what? We asked someone who's amazing at YouTube for help. It is that simple, you know? Okay.
You're up.
I'm up again?
Yeah, you're up, man. Low standards.
Low standards for the kid. Okay. What did we write about this? Yeah. So I already told this story.
When you did it, I was like, this is going to be fun. He's gonna
Oh, no, I'm going to have to tell this story again.
No, you got to come up with something else on the spot.
Okay.
Such a good
something
speaker.
else
Such a good speaker.
Where
Come on.
have I had low standards? Oh, yeah. Okay, so here we go. So I had given a few speeches at colleges and high schools, and I did get under the impression that I was good at this. And I do think to an extent that that's true, okay? But then I went and saw Brendan Burchard live.
Yo, yeah.
And when I saw him, I got very, very, very humbled. So this is about low standards. Low standards is a weakness. I'm sorry to say it, but it is. Okay? You can think you're the greatest and hardest worker ever, but when you're around a bunch of people who don't work very hard, that's actually a huge weakness. Okay? I got around Brendan Burchard, who has been speaking for 15 years consistently, and I remember being like, wow. So Kevin came home from that event with a lot more confidence of like, oh my God, I belong here. I met all these amazing people. We met Alessandro. I belong here, growth-minded people. He came back with confidence. I came back with extreme humility, even to the point where I was like, Kev, I was like crying, saying, Kev, don't leave me, man.
I was literally
love
like,
you, brother.
What the hell's going on? You fall down?
Right.
What's going on?
But here's what it is. I wasn't necessarily a good or bad speaker, okay? I had low standards, and I had low awareness of what a really good world-class speaker actually is. And ever since that moment, I feel like I've really gone all in on getting around people who have higher standards for themselves. And so similar to what B did with me with speaking, I've done with other incredible speakers like Brant Pinvidic, like the Evan Carmichaels, like the David Meltzers of the world. And so, again, that weakness of having a low standard has become a strength because of what I did with it. And that's the rolling theme here is every single weakness has a strength as long as you can sit there, admit it's a weakness, and then do something proactively about it.
We see this a lot when we're on other shows. Like Alan and I have been on a lot of podcasts either together or separately, and you'll see very quickly the standards of the host, right? And you can get like I always say, hey, if you ever want to hop on the phone, let me know, because it's my goal to help other podcasters. If you're willing to ask for something like we just talked about, you're going to get way further than you would if you didn't. Because the other thing is, if I come on your show and you have low standards, I'm going to be afraid to tell you that. But if you ask me, that's an open invitation for me to say, hey, no offense, but the way you just started the show without doing an intro, other guests are probably going to get thrown off by that. I've done enough episodes where I understand the flow, but that might be something you want to fix for the future if you're looking to impact at a higher level. Boom. It's so much different than me saying hey, by the way, that kind of sucked.
For lack of better phrasing, quick cheat code here.
Cheat code.
Seriously.
Expert tip?
Expert
I love
tip,
that.
yeah. So, B, another shout out to you. B literally said, I want you to be as hard on me as you are on yourself. And I'm telling you, if you have the courage to ask someone that, the things I suddenly was willing to tell her all these other things that I didn't want to hurt her feelings about before. If you want to grow, the coach that has helped me the most is the one who was the hardest on me, even to the point where he was kind of a dick. And I'll keep this anonymous. But I actually wish that I hadn't messed that opportunity up, because he helped me grow so much. So what Kevin and I have really tried to lean into lately is be truthful but kind. It was rough, haha. Yeah, but that's the thing. If you want the truth of what someone ahead of you thinks, you're going to get way more feedback, which is more pain in the moment, but it's also way more growth. So that's something that I've tried to do with my coaches and mentors. How many times have I asked Dave?
I was just going to say, he asked Dave last week, and Dave he gave it to us.
Yeah.
Live on LinkedIn in front of a bunch of people. He just hammered it. But we took the advice, and now we know what to do with it. So
right.
You're up next again.
I am. Poor leadership skills. Poor leadership skills. Okay, so
episode 1 of the HyperConscious podcast.
Yeah, episode 1, that's what the name was. Poor leadership skills. So if you have a weakness of poor leadership, which first of all, you might not know that until you start leading a team. What's interesting is that as you start to elevate and have more influence, you start to learn your own weaknesses very, very much. So I'll give you an example. Let's say you play high school basketball, and then you get into a D1 college. Your life doesn't get easier. It actually gets way harder. Certain things might get easier, but most of it actually gets harder. And then all of a sudden, your dream, and you're like, oh my God, I'm in the NBA now. Guess what? Your life didn't just get easier. Yeah, maybe the money made certain things easier, but the challenge of actually playing in the NBA, you went from playing, in high school against someone who's pretty good to now playing, the Michael Jordans of the world, the LeBron James of the world. So when you elevate, life actually gets more challenging, okay, which brings more growth, which then creates exponential growth, which is great. But here's my point. If you believe you're a good leader, I would say you have the capability of being a good leader, but you're going to learn very, very quickly as you lead more and more people. I remember when I had 3 clients. Now I have 10 clients. We've got a bigger team. The emotional resilience that it takes, the leading by example, the humility that it requires to understand other people's perspectives when they don't agree with you and to make them feel heard and validated, okay? So once you acknowledge, okay, I have poor leadership skills, which I've had to do several times. What I've had to do is, you've heard me talk about strength versus warmth. Some leaders might be really, really, really strong and assertive, and that's a strength, like a Steve Jobs, for example, but they're not balanced with any warmth. And that's why he hurt and upset so many people, okay? And this is nothing against Steve, but we're all righty or lefty. For me, the assertiveness and the strength actually does come fairly naturally. The warmth and the love and the empathy is something I've had to work on consciously, constantly. Okay, so since I acknowledged my own poor leadership skills, I'll never forget that conversation with Eddie Pinero and T-Mac and you. We were in the room and we were on the phone with Alex Hinkle. And I was just really disagreeing and butting heads with T-Mac and Eddie. And I was crying, and I ended up taking a moment. I almost went to the bar. Instead, I ended up going to the beach and just reaffirming my why, saying my purpose prayer. But I remember sitting there. I came back up and I said, you know what? Honestly, it's because I'm a bad leader. I wasn't able to see their perspective. I was only seeing my perspective. And after that, I started studying leadership. John Maxwell books, Leader Shift, 22 Invaluable Laws of Leadership, the 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth, which again has leadership principles in it. Your bottleneck to your long-term influence is leadership. And understanding that you're not as good of a leader as you could be, and then putting in the work to learn leadership along the way is going to change the game. And honestly, I've noticed Kevin coming up in that arena a lot lately, now that he's in a position to really have some good influence.
I appreciate that. A new saying I'm going with is lead with what's needed. So if you have an opportunity, if you have something going on in your business or with your team where you need vulnerability. Lead with that. It's far easier for people to get on a train that's already rolling rather than starting the train themselves. So that's kind of what we try to do. We try to be if vulnerability is needed, we'll do it. Right. If we need to.
But if you've never practiced it, how are you going to pull that tool out?
Right. Especially in front of other people.
Right.
It's not easy. All right.
I remember this one time. Go ahead.
Sorry, we have a question.
Sure.
How do you get up and get over your failures?
You want to go first?
Yeah. You want to?
No, you can go.
Do you have something? Okay.
Oh, I mean.
How do you get up and get over your failures? Ooh. I would say for me, I have a folder called My Deepest Why, where any one of you who's ever reached out to me saying thank you to me, I have literally, I want to say at least 100 of these. Okay. I screenshot them, I edit them, and I make them easily readable, and I put them in a folder. So whenever I fail big, which happens often, at the beginning of this, I said something stupid. I literally said, like, I'm glad I'm wearing pants or something dumb, right? Like, that just happens. I've failed more than most people ever will, probably. But when I'm down and out and I'm emotional and I'm having that, like, struggle night by myself, I go to My Deepest Why and I look at those messages. Amy sent me a bunch thanking me for the help. Bees sent me some. I have video testimonials. Kevin messaging me. Like, that's why I play. And so I would say reaffirm your why. And I'll just tell you this as well. When Eddie P and I were crying and I left that room feeling so hopeless before Your Will Within Live, this was like a year and a month ago, I was sitting there on the beach and strangers were literally coming up to me, even though I had sunglasses on, saying, "Are you okay?" Because they could sense that I was just crying in an unresourceful state. And I said, I'm good. I remember literally looking out at the ocean going, why are you even here? Why are you in Florida? Like, what are you doing? And then I went back to my purpose prayer and I said, I know why I'm here. I'm here to help people. And once I reconnected with that, I decided not to go to the bar, which, by the way, I very much wanted to do. We were near Margaritaville and in Hollywood Beach, Florida during, warm weather and all that, and everyone around me was drinking. So for me, it's that. It's go back to why you started and go back to your hard times. Go back to that time when you didn't have any influence, when no one cared about you and you felt alone and down and, maybe this is super hard. Maybe showing up here tonight and saying stupid stuff that, like, I'm wearing pants or whatever. That might be hard, but compared to the dark nights by myself in emotional pain, it's nothing. And so when I go back to my rock bottom, it helps me get humility, get grounded, remember why I started, and then just start to elevate again. So I went back into that room. I said, I'm sorry. And then that event ended up being amazing, and it changed so many lives. We met Tiff for the first time in person at that event. And if I wasn't able to really connect with my deep why, and had I gone and drank, maybe none of that, maybe a lot of that wouldn't happen.
I don't know if I can follow that up, but I'll try. I think Emily said it best. I think she said failure is not final until you quit, which, I mean, at the end of the day, this is the thing. If you try anything, you're going to fail. Eventually. You're going to fail eventually. Failure is not a negative thing. It's actually a sign of growth. I love to think about it that way. Like, if you are into fitness in any way, shape, or form, if you try to run further than you ever have and you fail, that is actually a positive thing because that means you're pushing the limits. I think what has to happen is we have to reassociate our relationship with failure. If you're failing because you're going beyond your current capabilities, that's actually a good thing. And it's not, you can't take it personally. Like, you can't take it personally. One of the biggest episodes we've had, Dean Graziosi, I literally screwed up the intro. I've done hundreds of intros. I screwed up Dean Graziosi's. If I let that failure ruin the rest of the interview, it wouldn't have been something I can laugh about now. It would have been something where, oh God, remember where I completely jeffed that episode? Failures are going to happen. And honestly, you're probably going to be your biggest critic, so understand that you're doing more than you ever have. You're probably doing better than you ever have. Failures are inevitable. We welcome them. Fail forward. Hashtag.
Fail forward. Mistakes are proof that you are trying.
That look good?
Yeah.
Okay. You looked at your hand. I thought something was coming.
No, I
thought
got
you had something written down there.
New callus.
Number 9.
Cheat sheet on my hand.
A big weakness for many people, and I'm going to use an example that I get asked about often. Inconsistent. Whether that is, you're very welcome, my friend, whether that is working out, tracking finances, having difficult talks, podcasting, whatever it is, whatever you're inconsistent. It could be inconsistent positive self-talk, right? Everybody is inconsistent when it comes to something.
Oh.
I haven't been posting in HyperConsciousNation because I be jeffing.
Foam rolling.
Foam rolling for the kid. So many things you can do. Number one, start small. If you're inconsistent, you're probably overwhelming yourself. Like, I don't care if you don't go to the gym 7 days in a row. Put your gym shoes on and walk in and turn around and walk back out. James Clear says that in Atomic Habits, right? Like, that's how you build consistency. Small actions over time. What else do I have? Oh, add in why. And Alan was just talking about why power. When you're inconsistent, you're probably basing your decisions off of emotions, right? I don't feel like doing this right now. But if you add in your why power and you understand, well, why am I actually doing this? Do I want to do what I'm doing right now? Well, no, but I want to provide a life for Taryn, right? That's my go-to. You guys know that. I cry all the time about it. But what is your why? Is it your family? Is it your family you don't have yet? Like, put some stake into somebody else. If you won't do it for you, find somebody you'll do it for, and you will be way more consistent. So people ask me all the time, how do you get up early? Okay, I get up at like 4 a.m., whatever. That's not what it's about. The reason I get up is because I have stacked immediate pain to me not doing it. So people that are inconsistent, they don't see the negative, I don't want to say benefit, detriment of that activity until it's way too late. So if you're inconsistent when it comes to running, doesn't matter because you can just say, well, I don't want to run. If you're inconsistent in your training when you're running a marathon, you're going to get that feedback and it's going to suck, right? So I would say create feedback along the way. For me, I have to get up because I have client calls, I have podcasts, I'm going to the gym, I have a lot of things to do. If I sleep in, like podcast stuff doesn't get done, money does not get made, impact does not happen. There is a direct negative to me not doing what I need to do. So that forces me to be consistent. And think about it. If consistency can be your superpower, the compound effect is going to be at your fingertips. Like, you're really going to be adding up things, and you're going to be able to do whatever you set your mind to. But start small. None of us were good at this in the beginning. Again, we started with one episode, and that was a struggle to be consistent. That was a real struggle, genuinely.
Crazy to look back on that.
Start small.
Think we should go fishing after this episode?
Yeah. No, I got rid of my fishing pole and all things.
Oh, man. The last thing about the inconsistent piece, I remember I was on a call last week, and I asked this person, I said, okay, so I've exercised, this isn't about me, but I've exercised every single day since the gym's opened back up. Okay? I've never missed. Now, anyone can do that, but almost no one will. David Meltzer has that great quote. I always say it. I love it. He literally says, if you want to know how in your own way you are, try to do 5 things every day for 30 days. Theoretically, we can all do that, right? Pick 5 things, do them every day for 5 days. 30 days, sorry. The chances of us actually doing it are slim to none. So here's what I would say. I asked her, I said, how am I actually going to the gym? How am I really doing it? When everyone says they'll exercise, but they don't, how am I doing it? She had a fire answer. She said, number 1, you have a bigger goal than everybody else. I said, okay, awesome. She said, you have more why power. You know exactly why you're doing it. And then you've made fitness a habit. And I said, she hammered those right off. And I was like, wow, those are actually fire. The real answer that I was going to give is I never let myself off the hook. So yesterday, it's 9:30 p.m., and we get to my car. I was at the lake with my girlfriend this past weekend. 9:30 p.m. I think maybe 9. A little after 9. I go to the gym. I told Emilia, sweetheart, you go home. I know you want to get good sleep. You have to wake up earlier than me. I can sleep a little later if I want to. I'm going to the gym. I go to the gym. I get out at probably 10:30, get to her place by 11, have my meal, go to bed. I did not want to go whatsoever. No part of me wanted to go. Okay, we ended up getting home way later than we had intended. The only difference between me and everyone else in this room is that I will not let myself off the hook, no matter what. Okay? Now, you have to be careful with what you choose. Okay? If you try to not let yourself off the hook for the gym and for every other thing, there's only so much time in a day. So be practical, be strategic, but the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. What is your main thing? Fitness is one of my main things. I will not miss. I have a flashcard in my pocket that says there's someone in a hospital bed right now begging God for the opportunity that you have to make a difference. Okay, think about that. There's someone in a hospital bed right now that wishes they could exercise and can't. I think about that shit every day. And that's why I will not miss. Now, I'm not doing 3-hour workouts. 40 minutes, I set a timer and I'm out. Sometimes 35, I'll admit, sometimes 30.
Oh.
Yeah, sometimes 30. If you have to lower the bar a little, focus on showing up. Let improvement happen organically. Focus on showing up. especially if you want to be consistent.
Also, we did a mastermind on it. Top 10 ways to be more consistent. So
Yeah.
you can hammer that as well.
That was a powerful one.
That was a powerful.
All right, last one is entitlement, and this one's for Jeff. Okay, so hard work, earning things, and perspective. So I told this story this past weekend, actually. So growing up in the 90s, the 90s were, I think if I look back at the stock market, the S&P 500, they grew 30% year over year for when Bill Clinton was in office, the economy was very, very good, okay? Anyone who grew up in the 90s, things were going very well for the internet companies and the economy was growing. In America, if you're from America, things were good, okay? I had a stepfather who made good money, and he was with us for 13 years, and when he left when I was 14 years old, we went from doing very, very well. And this also happened in the early 2000s when the dot-com bubble burst. A lot of people lost a lot of money, and a lot of the people that were doing well no longer were, and it went into a little mini recession. The 2000s, from 2000 to 2010, is referred to as the lost decade, okay, because of the 2008 and 2009 crash, and the early 2000s were jeffed, okay? Now, I went from basically... Remember Dreamcast? Kevin, you came over and played Dynamite Cop?
I went to Alan's house and I was like, yo, this is wild. Log cabin in the woods with all the technology. I need this. Snowmobiles and stuff.
Right. So things were very, very good for us financially, okay? I went from that to literally getting discounted and free lunch because our income when my stepdad left was so low, okay? I am grateful for that. Why? Because I got rid of entitlement. I went from early Christmas presents, Xbox, Dreamcast, PlayStation, vacations, ski trips, all that stuff, to none of it. It helped me develop character, resilience, and a million other things that I don't want to get into right now, but here's what I will tell you. Entitlement means that you think you deserve things by default. I'm going to say this, it's hardcore, but it is true. If you grew up spoiled, you most likely believe that you should get things by default. There's a reason why some of the people who have been through the biggest hardships end up contributing the most to society, because they develop emotional resilience, they get rid of entitlement, and they're willing to work for everything they earn. Kevin was jokingly saying, what would I do on a podcast episode recently if I won $130 million? She's like, well, I'd give $1 million to Taryn, I'd give $1 million to Amy, I'd give $1 million to
every
Tiff,
single one of you guys,
every team member. And then he's like, I'd probably give $1 million to Alan, but he probably wouldn't even want it. Guys, I know this is going to sound crazy. I don't want $1 million. I want to earn $1 million. I know I sound like a weirdo. I genuinely don't want something that I did not earn. I want to earn it more than I want it. Because earning it is where the character is built, and that's what I care about most. Shiny cars, jet skis, cars, all that, that's all fine, that's great. Use it for fuel. But at the end of the day, if you play the lottery, it's because you want big rewards for very little effort. I pay $1 here, might win 100 million. Awesome. First of all, mathematically, it's just not smart. Okay? Secondly, you want big rewards for minimal effort. That's a losing game. It's a losing game. So get rid of entitlement, develop work ethic, develop humility. I'm grateful for the hardships that I went through when my stepdad had left, because I developed all my entitlement of all that stuff, Dreamcast, Dynamite Cop, all that all went away. And now I'm willing to work for and earn everything I have, and I'm very, very grateful for that.
If I ever get a hefty inheritance, I'm not going to tell you. You're off the list. So at the end of the day, guys, don't use your weaknesses as an excuse. So number one, get clear on what your weaknesses are, because this is the thing. You can live your entire life with the same weaknesses if you decide they're there forever. I was the shy kid. I was the depressed kid. I was the anxious kid. I was the poor kid. I've been all of those things, but it's not my identity, right? A lot of these things are like feelings. They're not who you are. So if you decide you don't want them to be a reality anymore and you start taking action, you will get completely different results. But if you go through your life saying, well, this is who I am, I'm not consistent. That's not true. You're not consistent right now. I'm not confident. You're not confident yet because you haven't made it a priority, right? If you want to learn another language, you go around saying, well, I don't speak Spanish. Can you? Sure. All you got to do is practice. This is like that with everything. But the thing is, we don't focus our practice, right? If we practice these things will get better by default. So that is my challenge to you guys. Get crystal clear on what your weaknesses are. Alan and I have been very clear on that in the past, and that's one of the reasons we've been able to make a lot of those strengths, right? We still have weaknesses for sure, but we're working on them every day, and we're in a group of people who understand it's okay to have weaknesses. It's even better to talk about them, And it's even better to be there for somebody to help them when they want to strengthen them.
Beautiful. If you're squatting 300 pounds and your left knee is not ideal, you're going to notice it under heavy weight more than just walking around. So use that as an analogy for life. When life squeezes you, okay, and you're in a really, really up against the wall moment, you're going to notice more weaknesses than usual. When you squat heavy or lift heavy weight, you notice your shoulder hurts. You notice you have a weakness. You notice that you haven't been doing mobility. The last thing that I want to say here is, fortunately, my mom kind of proactively knew that we grew up in a lot of abundance financially early on prior to what I just told you guys. And so she brought me to Tijuana. Okay? Tijuana is on the border of Mexico, and I remember that was the most eye-opening experience of my childhood. I was being sold chiclets by little kids who literally were given no opportunities. They are selling chiclets for a quarter, and I was like mind blown because of the abundance that I grew up in this country. So if you're fortunate enough to live in a free society, to have a bright future, to be here for free, being able to learn and grow, like if I were to get that $1 million and Kevin were to win the lottery or whatever,
I'm not telling you.
I would use it for philanthropic work to make sure everyone actually has an opportunity to get the education they need, because those kids in Tijuana do not have the opportunities that you have. They just don't. And how dare we be entitled and not take advantage of it? And that's something that I'm super, super passionate about. And I think all of you are capable of achieving your dreams. And what if you're right and your dream is true and you really can do it, and everyone else who ever told you couldn't is wrong? You know, what if you are right? I think that idea was planted in your heart for a reason. And you're capable of everything we've done.
For sure. In a different, unique, probably better way. Like, just because we're doing it a certain way doesn't mean you can't do it better. We did it our way, right? Everybody has a unique, different way. Amy, Tiff, play us out. And also, we don't have fans, we have family. Love y'all.
So it's actually just going to be me.
Okay.
So make sure that you guys join HyperConsciousNation. You can go onto the website and then click the hashtag that says Join HyperConsciousNation on Facebook. It's a great group, super supportive. Follow us on Instagram. I'll put our Instagram handles in the chat. And if you guys haven't put yours in there yet, feel free to do so. Alan and Kevin are both doing free 30-minute calls. Alan's is for business and Kevin's is for podcasting. And then Tiff is also doing a free 30-minute call for anyone looking to design a website. And I'll put those Calendly links in the chat as well. And then just as a reminder that the room opens at 5:30 now, so we can all connect and get to know each other before the mastermind starts.
Yeah.
Also, Tiff does all the graphic design work for the Mastermind digital assets that you see come through. If you have a business and you need better graphic design, Tiff is fire on that.
Also, Bianca, I'm on my way. I hope you guys got me food. Thank you.
Come over. We got mad food.
Thank you, guys. As always, we love you. We appreciate you. And we will be here same time, same place next week, because we're going to just do this forever. From now until forever.
Thank you all so much. Transform those weaknesses into strengths, and we will see you next week.
Bye.